non-duality, and the limits of self-inquiry. I have always been obsessed with non-duality. This idea that the self is an illusion, that there is no you, that everything is happening by itself. For example, there is no you reading this text right now or listening to this video. Reading is happening by itself. Watching is happening by itself. The seeing is happening by itself. The movement of the eyes is happening by itself. The conversion of the words into meaning is happening by itself. Yada yada. The message became the most pointed when I heard, when the bell rings, there is no one listening to that sound. There is just that sound. How could it be? There is really a me, right? Hearing that sound? Somewhere deep inside the recesses of my mind, I thought to myself. After listening to arguably thousands of hours of videos on YouTube on topics varying as widely as from non-duality to neuroscience to philosophy to metaphysics, I have not found a single answer that solves my dilemma. I have come to the conclusion that this non-dual revelation on the course is something that spontaneously happens and is not something that can be forced. Even then, I couldn't stop thinking about it. There is no one hearing the sound. There is just the sound. On the course. Let's see what I can find. I, in quotes, find for myself. Even if I'm not really an awakened being or a philosopher or anything really, just an average bloke. Let's see what can be deduced from everyday experience. When I hear a sound, there is obviously the sound itself. By sound, more accurately, I mean the actual sensation of hearing. That's the bottom line. It cannot be denied that there is in fact an audio sensation. Irrespective of whether or not there is a hearer, no one can deny that there is audio sensation. That's fact. Now let's try to find the hearer of that sound. Can I do that without employing high philosophy, getting your brain fried by mushrooms, or without the benefit of supernatural experiences? Can I really find that something that hears the sound? I close my eyes and listen to a soothing jazz track as I begin to explore. Right off the bat, self-deprecating thoughts arise. Who am I to ask such questions? Am I really qualified to ask such questions? Am I kidding myself? I am not a scientist, neither a philosopher. I am nothing of note, so quit kidding yourself. My self-confidence is shattered a bit, but I ignored these thoughts and still try to explore. What hears this music? There is something that hears it, right? Right? I mean, it's so obvious, right? That there is someone, I think to myself. There has to be someone hearing. It's ridiculous to even consider the alternative. I look around inside, figuratively. By look, I mean I move my attention around, especially within the head area. It has to be there somewhere, I presume. My attention hovers around the sensation of my lips, the sensation of my tongue on my palate. Clearly, these are just other sensations, not me. I need to look further, I think. Immediately after that, my attention goes to my skull. I feel my skull, the front and back, the sides, the bristling of my hair, and the sides of my cheek. Clearly, these are also just sensations, I reckon, and not the hearer of the music. But still, my mind insists that there has to be a self somewhere. It has to be here, somewhere inside the body, somewhere inside the head. For some reason, my mind thinks the self has to be around the head. Surely, it's not anywhere below or in the lower part of the torso. Definitely not in the hands or the legs. I begin to imagine, what if I chop my hands or legs? I would still be me, right? It's a horrific and unsettling thought, but I continue to ponder. I would still be me, right? Or would I be a lesser me? Now, obviously, physically, I would be a lesser person, but as per the one who hears this music right now, will that self lessen when I am without any limbs? I really doubt that even if I lose my limbs, I would feel less of a self in the ontological sense. I would still be me. A sadder me, perhaps, but me. Then my attention goes back to the head area. It has to be here, somewhere, I think. As I feel my teeth with my tongue, It seems to me somehow that sensation of my tongue grazing against my teeth has to be somehow closer to me, undercourse, than the sensation of my toes on my legs, or the image of the computer screen in front of me. Clearly, some sensations are farther and some are closer. Then that means, as my brain seems to tell me, that there is a location where I am. But then I recall this can easily be the trick of my brain, an optical illusion of sorts. I recall the video on YouTube where an out-of-body experience is simulated by wearing virtual goggles. When a person looks at a video that is driven by a feed from a camera that lies behind the person's body. This person, when provided with that image and video, coupled with some artificial touch sensations, felt as if she was behind her physical body. To be more precise, her brain was convinced, even though she knew that it was not really happening because she was conscious that it was just an experiment. Now, given this ability or the disability of the human brain to be fooled in such a simple way, and its constant attempt to make sense of the impulses of all the senses from all the sensory organs into a coherent model of a person in the body, I feel less convinced that I am inside this head. It might as well be an optical illusion. I don't know where to go from here. Surely this sense of location can easily be an illusion by the brain, which is demonstrably likely, as per the video I just mentioned. But even then, even though I can't pinpoint the location of myself, undercourse, it doesn't shake the sense that I do in fact exist, in some way or another. What is the force behind this conviction? How can I be so sure that I exist? I ask myself these strange questions and keep quiet, hoping for some answers to echo back from the depths of my subconscious. But no matter how many times I ask it, the brain points towards my torso, as if to say, "Look, there you are. That's how you exist." It feels like the brain is raising the awareness of the torso area into my conscious awareness. To be exact, the area that the brain points to is the upper torso area, almost up to the lower jaw. When I close my eyes and cuddle myself, the brain scans the entirety of the body from the subtle heat in my eyelids to the cold toes that are wrapped around with a blanket. The brain does this as if to convince me repeatedly that these sensations exist and are a proof of yourself. I don't feel convinced at all. These sensations are clearly appearing just like any other sensations. Just like the sound of the music, they appear. On what basis do I say that the bodily sensations are me and the music not me? One answer the brain seems to come up with is that the sensations of the body last longer than the music, which comes and goes relatively instantly. So what? It's an arbitrary distinction. Then the brain still reaffirms the sensations of the body, so I keep asking, who or what is feeling these bodily sensations? Is there really a sensor or a perceiver of these sensations, or are there just these sensations? In a conversation with my brain, I come to this point again and again. The obvious fact is that there are these sensations of the body. That is self-evident. But it is not so obvious that there is a something that is sensing these sensations. Even though it is tacitly assumed that there is, we have been doing this since early childhood, and everybody thinks that it exists, that there is in fact someone sensing these sensations. But is it really so? I ask my brain again, what is the basis of this assumption? This fundamental assumption that colors our entire experience of life. How can I be sure that there really is someone? Again, my brain seems to say, this is ridiculous, to have an experience and wondering if there is an experiencer. There is always an experiencer, otherwise how can there be an experience? It seems to say. But then I reply, that's an assumption. It has been assumed that there has to be an experiencer to every experience. It has always been assumed by everyone that there has to be an experience to every experience. But how do you know that this assumption is correct? It really feels like a catch-22 situation at times. The self, if it exists, cannot be a sensation in any way, because if it is a sensation, then it clearly is not the self that perceives, because a sensation cannot perceive, it is perceived. But, and this is a big but, if there is no physical proof of something called the self, then how can you say that it exists? It is such a curious realization, an impossible question of sorts. If it can be sensed, it's not the self. But if it has no physical qualities to sense, does it really exist? It feels like a circular argument, but it's really not. If the self did indeed exist, there has to be a way to verify its existence beyond the sensory data. The non-sensorial quality of the soul has to manifest itself somehow, or has to be detected somehow without itself being just another sensation. However, I keep searching and I can't find it. But wait a minute, there is someone searching for itself, right? Then doesn't that mean that there is a self that is doing the searching? To this, the answer is simple. I don't recall choosing to take this action. Even if I seemingly chose to sit down and write all this and make this video, I don't recall choosing whether or not to choose. I just did it. Just like breathing or blinking of the eyes or digesting the food. Funnily enough, I don't even know how I am typing these words. Based on my limited understanding of the human body, I am pretty sure that a host of muscles, bones, and nerve impulses have to work in perfect synchronicity to contract and expand the muscles in just the right way for typing to happen, for speaking to happen like this. I don't know any of this personally, but I have been walking with my legs and eating with my hands and speaking with my mouth since childhood. How is it possible if it is me who is personally responsible for all this? It really feels like the body is taking care of it all on its own. As I say this, my brain is strangely silent on this part. Perhaps it just can't reconcile these diametrically opposite facts. Further, I am reminded of the experiments in neuroscience on free will, or the Milgram experiments, which showed that your conscious decisions could be predicted 10 seconds before you actually consciously make the choice. I've detoured into theoretical worlds and strayed too far away. It's no use talking about what other people found or said. What can I find and decipher for myself right here and now? Because it's regarding the truth of myself, and who else can know me better than me, right? It's not about theories, it's about actual living experience. It's about the fact of the matter. It seems that the self, on the course, rests on two pillars. As the perceiver and as the doer. As the perceiver, it allegedly sees, hears, feels, tastes, and senses things. As the doer, it allegedly initiates actions and makes things happen. If one of the pillars falls, I believe the entire facade will crumble. That's why I don't think you need to explore both. You can just surgically explore one. I chose the perceiver route. Now, when I close my eyes for one last time, I feel the immediate sensations of the resting eyelids and the lips, and I ask myself, who feels this? Silence. Since no answer was forthcoming, I modify my question. Why does it feel like someone or something is feeling these sensations? Could it also be an artifact of the brain in its attempt to make sense of all the sensations, just like it did with the visual sensation and gave the body a false sense of location? If it is in fact some sort of a optical illusion of the mind in its barest of moments, if it is that, then where do I go from here? I cannot unsee an optical illusion. An optical illusion doesn't cease to be illusory just because you know that it's an illusion, no matter how hard I try. Where do I go from here? My lips are gently rested, and there is a vague sense of heat on my closed eyelids. It is the barest of experiences in life, nothing extra, and that which everyone can relate to. Yet, it still has the ridiculous mystery. Why does it feel like something is having this experience? Maybe it's really like an optical illusion, but for all types of sensations, not just visual. It really feels like that. I don't know where to go from here. This really is the limit. Unless there's some kind of a supernatural revelation, I really feel like this is the limit of self-inquiry.